Fed heads, welcome to another episode of Cigar Chat. I'm your host Tripp here with my co-host John, the cigar surgeon. John, how you doing today?
Going well, buddy. It's a little windy today. It's a little smoky today. I feel like the entire province is on fire. All provinces are on fire, and apparently our air quality today was a 7 out of 10, which I'm told is the same as Beijing during the Olympics. So I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, that seems bad. We're kind of in the same situation down here. We've got a bunch of forest fires going in southern Oregon and northern California that are smoking up our air. So I'm filtering all that smoke out with cigar smoke.
That works.
We're
not here to talk about that, though.
We're not here to talk about forest fires. We're here to talk about hand rolled. And we're here with Jesse and Steve, the kind of, what do I call you? The creators, the directors of hand rolled?
Well, sure.
The creative geniuses? Can we use the word genius?
Geniuses behind hand rolled.
Genius is a bit much, but yeah, we're the directors, we're the creators. What's going on, everybody?
And for people who aren't familiar with the project, can you just kind of explain a basic overview of what it is?
Please. All right, yeah. So basically, we're making a documentary on the entire cigar industry. We're setting out to humanize the industry, put a human face to the industry, and show everybody what actually goes into making a cigar and the cigar culture and everything about the cigar industry. You know, we've interviewed people from some of the biggest names in the industry, as you guys already know, some of the biggest manufacturers, all the way down to just your basic farmer that just puts in their shift and goes home. So we've done a lot of interviews, we've done a lot of groundwork, and we're really excited to get it out to you guys.
So I'm going to hop in, Trippy, because I'm sure this question is probably on a lot of people's minds. It's kind of the first question I want to ask. Cigars are so niche. Tobacco is ultra niche. Where does the inspiration for that come from? I mean, where do you guys get the drive to take on a project like this?
You know, we've been smoking cigars for 10, 12 years, and we've been commercial filmmakers for about 5. And so we kind of got a little bit bored, a little bit sick of the mundane, just the same thing in our industry over and over, and we decided we wanted to do a documentary. We wanted to try it out and see if we can get passionate about something. So we just sort of thought, like, what is something that we both like? Yeah. And cigars was like the obvious choice, Not to mention that we sort of scoured through Netflix and Amazon and Hulu to see if there's anything like relevant out there, and there just isn't much in terms of like really well-produced documentaries on cigars. I mean, there's some stuff from the 90s, but nothing really current or relevant. So,
yeah, and your film style, I'm really impressed with. It's gorgeous, and I think it's really kind of modern, and it reminds me of other documentaries like Jiro Dreams of Sushi and the Chef's Table. It's kind of like a food style documentary almost in terms of like the visuals.
Yeah, we got a Red Epic W that we're shooting on for people that are into the gear porn. It shoots up to 8K, but we're shooting the documentary primarily in 6K, and then the interviews we're doing in 4K. So it'll be released in 4K when it's all said and done.
Nice.
Nice.
Right, yeah.
Do you guys think that Netflix as a platform has really made documentaries a lot more available for the mainstream? Because I feel like every time I go on Netflix, there's these really interesting, engaging documentaries, and I feel like that's a huge amount of the content that's being consumed by on-demand users now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just a really nice way to kind of engage your brain. I think it's sort of taking over like reading books and stuff like that. I think people are turning a lot more to digital media for knowledge and stuff like that. So not to say that this documentary would replace, some massive book, but it is something to get your feet wet in a sense, right? If you're just brand new, or even if you're, a big connoisseur.
Yeah. So
pretty cool stories with some of these guys. So
I think a big part of it, and a thing that makes it really important, is that it's going to kind of bridge. Well, my hope is that it's going to kind of bridge the gap between people who think cigars are a nicotine delivery system.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll run across it on Netflix and go, that looks interesting, and watch it, and then they'll come away with like a completely different perspective which is, I mean, that's the potential that I see in the project.
Yeah, that's the thing we say the most, is that if people watch our film and never associate cigars with cigarettes ever again, then we've done our job.
Yeah, that's absolutely the goal.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you look at it, you know, I get that tobacco specifically, but cigars even more so, are just so ultra niche. And the number of conversations I've had at an event where someone says, you know, well, how do you get those flavors in the tobacco? Like what do you put in there? And I go, tobacco and water. And they're like, no, but like, how do you get the chocolate and how do you get the spice? And it's like, it's tobacco and water. And you know, for us it's obvious because we're all geeks, we all smoke cigars, you know, we know this, but I think in many ways we probably overestimate just how little the average person walking around knows about cigars. They probably know what a cigar looks like, they know that JFK smoked them, and I bet that's probably it. Like, I bet, you know, that's probably where the knowledge ends for most people.
Yeah, I love using the analogy of comparing it to wine making and stuff.
Yeah, me too.
They don't add anything to the wine. It's just what barrels are they fermenting everything in? What's the processes? I mean, otherwise there's nothing added to it, you know. Just the grapes, and then it's tobacco from one field is not going to be the same as the tobacco from another field. It's the same with wine. So I think that makes it a little more easy for people to comprehend. That don't smoke cigars.
Well, and I mean, I think that's a good analogy from the perspective of, you know, alcohol is generally considered acceptable in the society. So if you can kind of bridge that gap between wine and tobacco, you know, maybe that allows people to maybe stop demonizing cigars maybe a little bit. I don't know if that'll ever work for Californians, but maybe for everybody else.
I find wine a really good analogy because the analogy that I usually use is like cigarettes are like light beer. Light beer, nobody's drinking it because they love the flavor. They're drinking it because it has alcohol. And cigars are more like wine. Nobody's drinking a $300 bottle of wine to get wasted.
Yeah.
They're drinking it because of the experience and the history behind it and all the passion that went into it.
Johnson.
Except Pete Johnson.
Except Pete Johnson. Because Pete Johnson can do whatever he wants.
I want to get into our first listener question here, which actually... I think that name might come up. He's wondering how you got the budget for this project.
Oh, yeah. A lot of that has been with Pete's help, honestly. Mm-hmm. He's been supporting the project. A couple other manufacturers are getting on board as well, but he was definitely the first one to hear the idea and just immediately go, yep, I'm in, I'm sold, you know. I mean, that was like from literally the first time we met him in Vegas last year, in 2016, you know, literally talked to us for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Like at the end, they were tearing down the booth. We almost didn't even go up and say hi to him because we'd been passing by his booth every day of IPCPR, and he was always busy. Like he was always busy. And we had this thing where we tried not to like, intrude when manufacturers were like surrounded by people because we know why they're there. They're there for business. They're there to, meet.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff.
We do interviews. We know that feeling.
Yeah. So you know what it's like, so we try to catch him at an off time, and every time we pass his booth, he was always with a horde of people. So the last day we're literally walking out and we decide to, we see him that he's finally not surrounded by people, and we decide to just go say what's up. And in those 3 minutes, he was like, "Yeah, I'm in," and we followed up, and the rest is history. But yeah, I mean, basically, we're trying to get funding from within the industry because essentially the whole goal of it is to be. I hate to say like a commercial for the industry, but almost like to tell the story of the industry. To humanize it and to get people to see, what it's really, what a cigar really is and how it's made and the fact that it's a craft. Like some people don't understand that it's a craft good, So essentially, a lot of it has been from Pete, to answer your question, to get back to that, and our own visas. And
of course,
Dale Marshall has been huge in that he built a humidor for us, which I don't know if you saw at Tripp.
I saw that.
Okay. So Dale Marshall built a humidor. It's on our Instagram and stuff, and we had it signed by 16 manufacturers. They all threw in cigars.
Wow.
So we're going to be auctioning that off here in the next month or so. That'll be another way for us to raise funds. So he's a huge contributor in that sense.
Yeah.
Nick Melillo from Foundation Cigars is contributing as well. So we're stoked that people within the industry see the value of the film and just want to be part of it. And that's been a huge help for us so far. But we're not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe just off the top here, since we're fresh on the show, if a manufacturer, and they should, get in contact with you to support the project, how are they going to go about doing that? What's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
We have through our website, you can contact us. That's probably the easiest way to go. Or just email us. It's either Jesse or Steve at handrolledmovie.com. And then we also have a donate tab for people that aren't manufacturers that just want to support the cause and throw some money our way to help make the film possible. That's on the website as well. So we try to keep everything super simple on the website. It's handrolledmovie.com.
Yeah.
Perfect. Trippy?
We have another quick audience question. This is going to be a really fast one. He just tuned in. He missed the first part of the show, and he wants to know if the film is already available, which of course it's not, but tell us about kind of your release hopes.
Yeah. We want to be completely done with shooting by February. Now, what people have to remember is that we're catching crops in Cuba, Dominican Republic, and in Nicaragua. So right now it's the rainy season. There's no tobacco growing out there. So we're hoping to shoot in, or not hoping, we're going to be shooting in Dominican Republic and in Cuba in January and February, and then we'll be done with production. After that, it's editing, and we're going to premiere it at IPCPR in July. So it'll be premiered in July. Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Still confirming details on that.
Yeah. But then after that, we'll be doing what's it called? Not a press tour.
Like a theater tour or something.
Yeah, theater tours and stuff like that until we get it up on Netflix, and so we'll be throughout the States with it until we get it up on Netflix.
Nice.
So
Awesome.
The plan is July.
Yeah.
Why don't we, because you guys just dropped a brand new trailer, why don't we push that out right now live to our audience? For the YouTube audience, we're going to put a link to it on YouTube. So we're not going to have it embedded in the video on YouTube, but for all our live listeners on Facebook, we're gonna play it right now.
Yeah.
All right, and we're back. I noticed some faces at the end there that I haven't seen in a while. So that's very cool. So heck of a job. I mean, if I'm sure the film will match the trailer. I mean, as a cigar guy, you can't help but be pumped. But I like the idea that you guys are bringing a positive light and a truth to an industry that we desperately need right now with so much negativity being shone onto. And you can, like last year we talked about at the IPCPR, you could just feel some of the energy being sucked out of the industry. And I feel like this is exactly the thing that the industry needs at exactly the right time, because things are looking really dark, frankly.
Nice trip.
It happens.
Awkward. He drinks professionally. That's the funny part. He drinks professionally.
I don't drink water professionally.
That's true. Yeah, if it was booze, you wouldn't have spilled.
Yeah.
How are we doing for audience questions, Trippy?
We've of course got a bunch, because if you missed it before, if you ask a question, you have a chance to win a hand-rolled lighter or T-shirt.
Yeah.
Actually, I said we should do a question, but I realized we should probably do our first sponsor break.
Oh yeah, we're up against it. We'll ask a question when we get back.
All right. Brought to you by Gurkha Cigars. Gurkha Cigars, makers of the world's finest cigars. Try the 93 rated Heritage, featuring a Rosado Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Dominican, Pennsylvanian, and Nicaraguan fillers. Blended by Gurkha's blending team at American Caribbean Cigars, it is hand-rolled Nicaraguan, available in 35-count boxes. Talk to your local B&M about the Heritage today, or talk to them about other fine Gurkha cigars. Whatever your taste preferences, Gurkha has a cigar that's right for you. And we're back. Trippy, we had an audience question, a weasel question, as it were.
Yeah. This one comes from Jeff Madre. What's the most surprising thing you've learned while researching or shooting the film?
That's a good one.
I have two answers for this. One's going to be really stupid. I learned last year. This is the worst. I'm embarrassed. I've been a cigar smoker since I was 18, and I'm a collector. And I didn't know this until last year that Connecticut actually meant Connecticut. Dumbest thing in the world. I just thought it was like, oh, whatever, not a big deal.
Like it just originated from there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there aren't many Connecticut shade wrappers that are grown in Connecticut.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's an embarrassing one for me. But then the other thing is, not that I learned so much, but in talking to all these former Cuban masters and now Nicaraguan masters and stuff, like for instance, Don Pepin Garcia, when we left his interview and everything that he told us, which everybody will see on the film, I left emotional. That's how excited I was, how impressed I was with him, and how just overwhelmed I was with the information he gave us. So
I actually met him the same day. Like we went through on a factory tour during Puro Sabor, and the chair that you guys interviewed him in was still like in between the rolling tables there.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that was an amazing experience. So
yeah,
that's for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We had like 4 people with us total for that interview, like just our crew, and we all left like emotional and in awe. And I wasn't crying because I'm super tough, but it was
cutting onions.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's also cool to see how much like since it is such a small industry when you look at all of tobacco, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so small and it's so niche that it's cool to see how they take care of like the people that work for them. We got to do the factory tours, some of the factory tours as well, but also got to go a little bit behind the scenes on a lot of stuff. And we've done a lot of work just through, like, we do commercial work, but we've also done a lot with like nonprofit organizations and stuff. And so we get to see a lot of like stuff that's happening in the developing world, and to see the way the workers, even at like some of the lowest levels at the factories and the farms, the way they're taken care of and the way they're treated, and the stuff that's available to them in terms of like medical supplies and just childcare and all sorts of stuff. Like, it's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to have like generational. It's going to be a generational good that they provide to their.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's probably the surprising part.
I mean, part of me has got to wonder, because a lot of these guys, a lot of these people that you're interviewing haven't been on film before, and part of me thinks like you're almost documenting some of the big people in the industry that have never been documented. And to draw probably a terrible parallel, but it kind of reminds me of the project that was the documentary that was done for Band of Brothers, where they did interviews with people, and to me, I mean, obviously that's a terrible parallel, but for the industry, these people, these people aren't going to live forever. We want them to live forever, and they're not going to live forever. And to have their stories and their knowledge and their experiences transposed to a semi-permanent, permanent medium, I think is kind of a big deal. And I think a lot of people might overlook that. But for me, I think that's kind of a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look at Orlando Padron. We got an interview with him back in May. So this is just before his 90th birthday. I mean, he might not have another interview on camera from now on. So that stuff like that's huge. I mean, we're so excited and fortunate that we got to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that we get to do stuff like that.
Actually, this is maybe getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but one of the things that we want to do in the future after this documentary is done is to do a docuseries. You mentioned Chef's Table earlier. Mm-hmm. We want to do something like that for the industry, where we will interview some of the remaining Cuban masters and some of the big names or the up and coming names sort of in the industry that are making a splash, and really dedicate like 45-minute episodes to just one person.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
There's so much history. I mean, there's so many stories. There's so much history there. To be able to capture that on film would be incredible. Even a part of that.
That's the hope.
Trippy. What are we doing for questions?
They're rolling in.
Let the weasels loose, buddy.
Jason Savka wants to know. Well, he's kind of got a 2-part question here that he asked, which is, where are you from? Actually, 3-part. What made you want to do this film? And is it the first like feature film that you guys have been involved with?
Yeah, we're from Roseville, California, which is Northern California.
It's not known for video production.
It's
not Hollywood.
We're putting it on the
map. Yeah. I think we already kind of explained why we started doing it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a personal passion to both of us. Passion? I just feel like
it's a passion.
Midwestern on us.
Yeah.
Passion.
And the third, what was the third question?
So this is
the first feature film.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So we're commercial filmmakers. That's what we do full time, and so this is our first. We had a conversation almost 2 years ago where we said we need to do a documentary. Let's try it out and see how we like documentary filmmaking. And then we spent about 6 months BSing with ideas of what we wanted to shoot. And finally, I think it was December of 2014 where we said 15, yeah. Where we just said, what the heck, we love cigars. Why aren't we doing something on the cigar industry? And that's how we started researching the cigar industry. January of 2016 is when we officially started doing our research, and we spent a full year in pre-production before we actually started filming, which we started filming in January of this year.
Of course, full year of like off time and
yeah. Now it's taken up maybe 70% of our time.
Wow.
So yeah, so we've really put our commercial work aside as we're fully focusing. I mean, we want to do right by the industry. We want to do right by filmmaking. And so we wanted to put out a good product, and it's consumed us, and we couldn't be happier. We're having a blast with it, learning a lot and meeting amazing people. So
turns out it's not as easy as we thought.
Yeah.
So.
Well, talking about that, I kind of have a 2-part question. I didn't know you guys were Californian, so that actually is poignant because California as a state is rabidly anti-tobacco. So 2-part question. First, have you guys received any pushback during the project? And secondly, can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced through the project that you maybe weren't anticipating starting out?
Yeah, honestly, we haven't faced much pushback at all. I mean, knock on wood, but so far it's been pretty smooth sailing. And I think one of the things is, it's pretty easy in conversation. I would say I've had a few friends that are like, why would you do something promoting tobacco? But it only takes a few minutes in conversation to go like, this is not cigarettes, and it's probably like one of the purpose behind, what Jesse said earlier, like if you watch the film and you never associate cigars with cigarettes ever again, like that's kind of something that we said out of our focus groups, because even people that are like occasional cigar smokers still make the same association. Like they don't understand that, these are not coming off a conveyor belt at 18,000 cigarettes per minute.
Yeah.
These are like a really good roller will roll like 350 of these a day, maybe, right?
Every single one is meticulously handmade.
Yeah.
And people don't, unless you're semi like deep in the industry, like you've gotten really into cigars, you don't understand quite how much effort there is behind each and every single cigar.
Yeah. Well, and so like, that's why I say we haven't received a ton of pushback, because it only takes, a couple minutes in a conversation to really dissuade somebody of the idea that it's a cigarette, that we're promoting or something, But, knock on wood, who knows what will happen from here on out.
The people that are really getting pushback right now in California are obviously tobacco shops or cigar lounges and stuff like that. I mean, with the age limit going up a year ago to 21 from 18, stuff like that, it's just been crazy. And we saw at IPCPR, and Tripp, you saw it too, that, just California just didn't show up to the trade show. You know what I mean? And the trade show was considerably more empty because of it. And just getting crazy. Taxes went up too quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
So it's just been it's been nuts. But for us, I mean, we're filmmakers. We're not selling a product. We're not doing that kind of stuff. So we've been pretty clean off of that stuff so far.
Yeah.
I have to wonder if you will get some sort of pushback from like Netflix or any other digital distribution companies that you approach. But at the same time, Netflix just made a sitcom
Castro
about smoking weed.
Well, they have a Castro documentary on there, which largely talks. It kind of talks about cigars. So I feel like the door's kind of cracked. I mean, you can't,
Yeah. Well, we're not promoting. We're not like pro cigars in the sense of like, hey, watch this film and you're going to want to go out and smoke a cigar. I mean
hopefully you will, but
those, it's like those of us that smoke will see that and be like, man, I need a cigar right now, and like it'll pair well with this film.
Yeah.
But it's just an informational film. So I think hopefully we won't get a lot of backlash in that sense because we're not trying to get kids to smoke cigars.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
We're hoping like that you can, like this film will cross some boundaries that like the industry hasn't really crossed before.
Yeah.
You'll have a group of guys hopefully watching it in their garage or man cave with a bunch of cigars and some whiskey, and then you'll have like the occasional millennial that'll sit down and just click play on Netflix on whatever's the most recent documentary that's out there.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that regardless of who you are, you'll enjoy it because we're really telling the story of a craft industry and of like an industry with a lot of history. We're not just like making some shameless plug at a brand or something.
Yeah. I could absolutely see it as a movie that I would sit down and watch with my wife, and she would be genuinely interested in it because it's not just about the tobacco, it's about the stories and the passion that goes into it.
Exactly. Yeah. And we want people that are against tobacco to watch the film and just get some more information. Yeah. I mean, what information do we have? I know the information I have, and I still hear it today, is, dude, I learned in health class in high school that one cigar is 100 cigarettes. I mean, that's just that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So
yeah,
we want people to see it, and if anything, was that other dumber? We want people to see it, and if anything, get some education on the industry and the craft that we love. And again, if you never associate a cigar with a cigarette again, we've done our job. Yeah.
Nice. We're going to take a quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. This show is sponsored by Cigar Oasis. Don't spend all your time worrying about your cigar wrappers cracking, splitting, or falling apart from humidity fluctuation issues. Set it and forget it by choosing Cigar Oasis, a professional solution which provides equal distribution of humidity with precise electronic controls. Monitor your cigars through the internet using the Smart Humidor Wi-Fi attachment. Why don't you spend all your time enjoying your cigars and relaxing, and let Cigar Oasis protect your cigars? Cigar Oasis has solutions for any humidor. Make sure you set it and forget it today. And we're back. We're talking to the guys from Hand Rolled, and I want to ask a question that might be a little controversial because that's kind of how we warm you up on Cigar Chat, and then we toss out a controversial question. And my question is, as a Canadian, we have a different relationship with Cuba than Americans do, and I know that there's a lot of very appropriate feelings from people in the industry who had to fled Cuba during the takeover, and there's a lot of history there. So my question for you is, and you're kind of covering all aspects of the industry, and one of the touchy aspects of the industry is the Cuba side of things. So have you guys been approached, or has any of the ex-Cuban people kind of talked to you guys about that? Is there any part of that you can kind of share with us about maybe there was some side conversations about their concern, your portrayal of the cigar experience in Cuba?
Yeah, well, so this is something it's a bit of a touchy subject, like you said, but one of the things that we run into is obviously like we're producing this documentary for primarily like an American market, so the American experience with Cuban cigars is generally not very vast. Our hope is like in the way that we're portraying Cuba in the film is not like to dog on it, but it's really like hoping, because we hear from a lot of people that you get a box of Cubans and something like 25 to 30% of them are just garbage.
Yep.
Like they're either plugged or they don't draw well. I mean, maybe from being plugged or whatever. Some people say that they're still green, basically out of the box, and you gotta wait several months or maybe even a year before you smoke it. I've not had that experience personally, but like I said, so one thing we're hearing from like even a lot of the like Don Pepin, for example, who left Cuba, it's not really like it's not an animosity or something towards it. It's like almost like we're hoping like that they can get back into the game at their full capacity. So that's sort of the way we want to portray Cuba in the film too. Like they're definitely, like, you look at the history, you can't tell a cigar story without talking about Cuba. That said, the restrictions on the free market with Cuba, over the last however many years have, I would say, sort of placed them at a disadvantage, because you've got people like, Pete Johnson, who's putting out new cigars like every year and just literally toying with stuff until the point where he finds something he loves. Like these guys are able to do these, put them out to market in limited quantities, try stuff out and like really, try different flavor profiles, reach people with different palettes, stuff like that. Something that Cuba has a little bit of a struggle doing, being as they're not, like owned by a particular person. They're owned by Habanos, which is owned by Cuba, and it's all essentially government run. So that's the cool thing about the free market, is you're able to try an idea, and sometimes it just literally sucks and you throw it away, but sometimes it's amazing, and so that's something they're not really able to experiment with. So our hope is that in the coming years that they'll be able to start actually being able to toy. I'm sure I know that some of the master rollers there and master blenders there, like, personally, like, toy with blends and have their own little personal stashes and stuff, but that's not something that's released to somebody like you or me typically. So I don't know if I sufficiently answered that, but
as far as actual like pushback or anything that we've maybe seen, the only thing I can really think of is some former Cuban masters will either talk openly about their time in Cuba, and some of them that we've interviewed will not allow us to say anything, mention Cuba in any way. They don't want to talk about it at all. So that's the only kind of pushback we may have gotten from so far.
And have you guys gone down to Cuba yet, or is that part of the future filming?
Future, yeah. Nice. Well, I mean, we'll only really go if we have some access, because to just go sort of like as a tourist, I mean, it'd be fun, but if we can't film with anybody meaningful, we can get footage of factories and crops and stuff from plenty of other places. But I mean, we definitely want to go, and it's sort of like, it's been interesting because it's sort of a discovery process too. I don't think that most documentaries are filmed this way, but we were literally nobody in the cigar industry. Like, we didn't know any of the manufacturers or anybody when we first started this. So it's not like we had all these connections and we just started making phone calls and going, "Hey, bro, like, can we come out and interview you or something?" It was all groundwork. It was all cold calls and cold handshakes at IPCPR and introducing ourselves. So it's sort of like a discovery process in all this, because like, you can't just phone up George Padron and go, "Hey, I want to come over and spend a couple days with you and interview you and your dad." It just doesn't work that way. So I know what, like, we do a bunch of Wikipedia stalking and website stalking to get as much information on these people as we can before we interview them, but that's pretty limited. And really, when you're shooting something like we're shooting, which is like really a personable sort of documentary, these details are seldom available, like, on the websites, or maybe just some brief little tidbit about it is available. So for us, it's been a discovery process, and I think the whole story of how Cuba plays into the documentary is sort of still a little bit malleable.
Well, we'll talk offline after the show, but I might be able to do some introductions for you guys, as the Canadian who travels to Cuba quite often.
Been to Cuba once or twice.
Yeah. Trippy, let's get some Weasel questions in because I know they're they want to get their Weasel on, they want to get their winnings in, and ask good questions.
We've got a good softball one from Jason Savka again. He wants to know what your favorite cigar is.
Woo! Loaded.
Man.
Why do you hate my company, guys? What do you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just gonna outright refuse that question personally, but you go right ahead.
That's fair.
How about this? Let's reframe it in a political. What are some of the cigars that you've really enjoyed in the past?
There you go. That's a great way to put it.
Well, so right now I'm on an old Tatuaje kick. So the older the better is because I'm a collector as well. We're collectors, so that's what I've been really seeking out is as old as I can possibly get from Tatuaje. Those have been great. I mean, the Monsters have been amazing. Some of their older stuff. Padron is always a go-to, especially if I don't have time to really sit and look through my humidor. I'll grab a Padron because I know it's going to be amazing.
Exactly.
Let's see. I had an amazing Coy d'Orsay, which is Cuban.
Oh yeah.
2005. That was a very tasty one I had recently. So I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, Foundation Cigars, the El Olense Maduro, fantastic.
Forget about it.
Yeah, done deal. Actually, anything from them. What's it called? The Tabernacle is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So there's just so many. It's the flavor of the month for me. I can't really pinpoint like my absolute favorite. I guess the Tatuaje, because that's where I spend most of my money, is on the older Tatuajes.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with Pete. It's not like I'm going to.
No.
He doesn't look at my collection ever, but
it does make good stuff.
I would say I had a great. Well, we had. A great 10-year anniversary Don Pepin Garcia.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
I'm gonna hesitate to use the word my favorite, but
change your life a little bit.
Yeah,
you know, I grew a little hair.
Yeah.
We're on a mad hunt to find more afterwards, and we found 2 more. So I don't know when we're gonna ever smoke those, but those are great.
And I've got another question from Bob Dog that I'm going to modify a little bit because his question is how much of the motivation to produce the film was driven by the FDA deeming regulation, and I know that it kind of changed the scope of the film, right? Like you didn't start off thinking about the FDA, but it certainly changed partway through, right?
We had no clue initially.
Yeah,
we knew nothing about it.
We literally sat down with our local tobacconist, who's his name's Rev, Perfecto Lounge here in Roseville. He also has his own line of cigars, but he's the first one that told us about the FDA, and we had no clue. Again, smoking for 12 years, I guess it was like 11 years at the time or 10 years at the time. I had no idea about what was going on with the FDA. So our first trailer, which is still up on our YouTube channel for now, is FDA heavy. I mean, it's all about the FDA. Nobody knew what was going on. This is pre-August 8th, so everybody was kind of in limbo with what was happening. But since that hit and just people are starting to recover from it and adapting to the FDA, our scope has changed. But yeah, we were very FDA heavy to begin with. And it's still going to be part of the story because it is part of the cigar story.
Yeah.
So it'll be in the film, but we're not FDA heavy anymore.
Yeah. Like I said, it's been very much a discovery process for us as well.
Mm-hmm. And,
in sort of thinking about it, we realized that like the FDA question is going to settle at some point, and we don't want to make something that's that has a lifespan on it. We want to pick up this film in 10 years and go, I still love these stories.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Trippy, we probably have time for one more question before the next break.
I think we got time for one more. This one's from Jeff LaPlante. I like this question. He says that the cigar industry is known for having like major players with really big personalities. Out of all the industry icons that you've interviewed so far, who's like the most larger than life?
Oh man, you're trying to get us in trouble, Mr.
Oh yeah, that's what we do here on Cigar Chat. We just we lay a foundation, then we get you in trouble.
Yeah. First of all, screw Pete Johnson.
But Fuck that guy.
Gosh, Steve, you answer this one.
Oh no, this. I will say, everybody's been awesome. Like we haven't. No, seriously, I'm not joking. Like we haven't met anybody that we're like we leave like going, that guy's like a real dick, or something like that. As you guys probably know, being involved, there are people that have various reputations, whatever. But for us, like just our whole scope, and being that we're not any sort of competition or we're not retailers, so they're not trying to sell to us or anything like that. Like our interactions have been really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like larger than life. Like they're all kind of larger than life. Like you can't be a big industry person without like a character or persona.
Yeah.
Here's a phrase that we hear the most from manufacturers, especially if you've been in for at least 20 years. The phrase you will always hear from a manufacturer, regardless who it is, how humble they are, whatever, is, "Hey, this is what we do. Nobody does it like this."
Yeah.
Or this process, nobody does it like this. I'm like, but everybody does.
Yeah.
Nobody has a draw master. Everybody does that.
Yeah, there's
except for Joe. They don't have a draw master.
It's true. It's true. Very anti-draw master.
But yeah, no. It's everybody's got a little bit of an ego. And in the best of ways. I mean, it's been great.
But yeah,
that's our Miss America pageant answer. Like such as
and world peace.
Yeah.
And
love yourself as your neighbor or whatever. Yeah, good. We're good.
That's about as far as we're gonna go on that one.
Fair enough.
All right,
Trippy, let's sneak another one in.
Let
them get their weasels on.
Let's see, Ruben Godblode. I can't pronounce his name. Goedbled? I don't know.
He's a good guy.
He wants to know how receptive the industry has been, or if you had any resistance at all within the industry. Anybody who like refused interviews and stuff like that.
Oh no, we haven't had that. Here's the main thing. People thought, and this is nothing against bloggers, but people thought we were bloggers at the beginning, and they thought we just wanted free cigars out of the process.
Bloggers.
There are some people that they take the name, right? So what we had to get past is the fact that we've never asked anyone for free cigars, ever. I mean, we're cigar smokers, but well, I'm saying manufacturers. We've never asked anyone for free cigars. If I want a box of cigars, I'm going to ask you how much you charge for them, because I make money the same way they make money off of our product that we put out, and it's as simple as that. So once we get past the fact that we're not bloggers, we're actually filmmakers, and we're not part of the industry, we're just doing a piece on the industry, then people take us in as if we're family, and they've been absolutely amazing. I mean, it's crazy how well they've received us, and I mean, we've had dinners and stayed up late talking over a glass of scotch or something with so many manufacturers that just treat us like family, and it's been amazing. Yeah, nobody has said no just yet.
Yeah,
good,
nice.
Even Carlito from Fuente, he was extremely open, just because other people from the industry have vouched for us, and immediately he said, "Yeah, come on over, and then we'll give you whatever you need," basically. So it's been great. Yeah.
I mean, my personal experience is the same. I don't think there's anybody in the industry who hasn't been extremely welcome. I mean, almost absurdly welcome.
I mean, as
it's
bloggers,
almost embarrassing. Yeah,
as bloggers, we haven't had anybody who's been like, "Man, get these guys out of here."
No, I mean, when you get invited into somebody's house and they're cooking food for you, I mean, you're almost like, it's almost to the level of embarrassment. It's like, I don't really know you that well, and you're treating me like we've known each other for 10 years. And I don't know what the protocol here is, but yeah, that's been my experience with people in the cigar industry. Is they're just very, very nice.
I mean, isn't that the beauty of the industry? Like, what other industry do you know that's like that?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Oh, cigarettes are totally like that. We're gonna take a quick station break here, and we're not gonna. We have a station video spot. We've been getting a lot of feedback about it, so I'm just gonna do the Logan spot, and the Logan spot is Smoke Drew Estate. They good.
They good.
That's it. How we doing for questions, Trippy? I mean, I got a bunch of questions. I mean, I could technically...
You ask your question, because I like refreshed Facebook or something, and I can't...
All right. So...
I can't get the questions to show up.
So I'm a geek. I'm a technology geek. I'm a film geek. Talk a little bit about some of the technical challenges behind making the film in terms of gear, in terms of technology, software. Maybe talk about some of that struggle or some of the learning process along the way as you guys have been working on this.
Yeah. Well, as you might imagine, we're trying to make this thing look big budget on
and it does.
It does. Yeah.
And we're sort of able to do that because this is this is obviously what we do, and because we're passionate about it. But on like a commercial set, which we're used to, we'll have people setting up, tearing down, and we just kind of show up and shoot and stuff. With a little bit of setup here and there, but here we've been lugging, hundreds of pounds of gear ourselves, to different countries, different states, having to do all of our own production. We're the directors and we're the grips and we're the everything in between. So, it's tough. It's tough when you're doing it on a budget like that.
Wow. Oh. Nice. You couldn't have timed that better.
Jesse almost died.
Wow. Live on the internet.
That was one of our sound panels.
Yeah, see? Big budget.
Look at that.
Sound panels.
Straight from the studio. That's so we don't sound like we're in the toilet while we're talking to you here. But yeah, so that's been one of the biggest technical challenges is not having a big crew to be able to help out, and it's rough because there's a lot of details to keep track of. If I'm asking an interviewee questions, and I also have to check, the exposure and the focus and everything on the camera, like it's hard to be all there, all the time. Not to mention, like when we were in Nicaragua, we'd wake up at like 4 a.m. Oh my gosh. Like 3-4 days in a row to shoot. The farm workers going to the fields and doing all this stuff because we really want to document that footage. We're not, we want to show the whole process, and the reality is that that people wake up early in the morning and they work, and we have to capture that. So, so then we're at Puro Sabor the whole day, and we get our last interview on some of the days at at midnight. We start our last interview. Like for example, when we interviewed Nick from Nick Melillo from Foundation, we showed up to his place at midnight after being up for God knows how many hours at that point, and you throw into that mix a little bit of Nicaraguan rum, and there's a lot going on.
Also, in Nicaragua, the ground is volcanic ground, as some people know, or if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah.
But our drones, for example, could not handle it. I mean, we try to put them up in the air to get some aerial footage. First of all, getting drones into Nicaragua is...
We did not get drones.
I was going to say, aren't they illegal there?
They are.
We did not get drones into Nicaragua.
Oh, we absolutely did. But, but I mean, you get them up in the air, and then because of that magnetic field from the volcanic ground, the drones would go crazy, and we couldn't get any aerial footage in Nicaragua.
Wow.
Actually, what we do have is just garbage. I mean,
we'll have to reshoot that. In the interest of full honesty and being see-through here.
Just get it out there.
Transparent?
Oh.
Yeah, transparency.
Yeah.
All Nicaraguan border services, please check out right now.
Jesse just inserted a bunch of words for why the drone is malfunctioning, but we don't actually know why.
Oh, yeah.
We're pretty sure it was the volcanic rock.
Hard guess.
Don't take any of that technically as technically accurate. But there was some shit going on with the drones. It would be a very true way of saying that.
Yeah.
Trippy, how are we doing for questions? We probably have time for one or two more audience questions before we get into the weasel dishing.
There was a good one here that was kind of a softball, but I wanted to know. Harley Holmes wants to know, what's your favorite pairing? Like, what do you like to drink with a cigar? Because that's something that John and I are very interested in.
Just a wonderful chocolate.
No, we're big on, right now, currently, we're big on Weller and Willet, in fact.
Nice.
Oh, Willet.
Yeah, we've been big on the bourbons currently. Espresso, bourbon and rye. Espresso always goes well with it for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the main. Yeah.
Jesse owns one of those fancy pants third wave coffee shops. So
oh, good, nice.
Oh yeah,
we get a nice espresso.
Yeah.
Giddy up. We could talk coffee for hours.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very pinkies up, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you gotta get the pinky up. Trippy, any more questions? I got a couple questions loaded.
you go.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the annoying filmmaker question that everyone always asks. If you could go back in time with the knowledge that you know now, what would you have done differently in the project?
That's tough.
I don't think I'd change anything.
I don't know that there's anything that we could change.
Wow.
Like,
All right.
if I could magically somehow have met all of the big players beforehand,
yeah,
that would have been fantastic. To be able to like have establish a relationship with them, and not have to just show up on the set. Sometimes, you know, shaking hands for the first time, or you know, something like that. That would be great. But that said, I don't know that that's an option. You know, I don't know how we would have gone about doing that without doing it the way we did it, which is basically, you know, put together a mock trailer, you know, start just calling people, emailing, showing up places, and shaking hands, kissing babies.
We went to Nicaragua with Perdomo being the only factory on the docket. Okay,
Wow.
we had just under 3 weeks in Nicaragua. That we like. That's what we had planned for. We went there.
And 10 of those days were with like a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, we're doing some humanitarian.
So we got like a free sort of flight out of it, so to speak.
So I mean, the way things happen, for example, I'll tell you quickly, is that we met a guy that owns a small bar at this random beach town. Okay. And he happens to speak English, so he's super excited to speak to anybody that speaks English, right? And he tells us,
this beach town, you have to drive, just to put in perspective, about an hour and a half on a dirt road to get to.
Out of Managua.
Yeah, out of Managua.
Yeah. So we're there, we're talking to him, we tell him about the project. He goes, oh, my nephew's in cigars. And so in any industry, you hear my nephew or my niece does this, you're thinking, okay, yeah, big freaking deal, you know? But he put us in contact with him, who happened to be Roberto Lopez.
Yeah, of Santiago.
Santiago Cigars, who put us in contact then. Within a few days, we were at Plasencia interviewing Nestor. So things like that, you can't plan that. We ended up doing 25 or so interviews in Nicaragua. We extended our trip. We spent 22 days total. Yeah, twice we extended our trip. So imagine how happy our wives were.
Yeah.
And kids.
We tried to get into Puro Sabor on like the press pass or something. And in the most polite way, they told us to fuck off. And so, but Roberto reached out to Juan Martinez personally and was like, hey, you know, I don't know if these guys were able to get up to you in the like email process, but you know, they're really doing something awesome here. And so, yeah, Roberto Lopez of Santiago really sort of stepped in initially and helped us out in terms of like getting us in Puro Sabor and stuff like that. And vouching for us. So, you know, once Juan actually met us in Esteli and met us face to face and saw what we were doing and saw what we were about, you know, they basically gave us passes to Puro Sabor.
Nick Bolillo, we met in a coffee shop randomly.
Super
in Esteli.
Wow.
I mean, he literally leaned over and asked if we're hanging out for Puro
I
Sabor.
may have very loudly said some very disparaging things about somebody. Maybe you recognized
in the industry. Yeah. You know, it's like
I can guess who that would be.
It's cliche that, you know, things happen for a reason, right? But the project wouldn't be what it is if things didn't happen exactly how they did, which is by accident. Actually, the phrase that we always say
what are the odds?
What are the odds? Yeah. Like we finish doing an interview, we meet somebody, we get in the car, we go, what the heck are the odds that would happen, you know? And that's what this movie is. I mean, I wouldn't change a single thing about how things have gone through so far. It's been stressful. It's been insane for the most part, but it's been so rewarding and so fun. Yeah. And I wouldn't change a single thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I speak for Tripp when I say we're pretty excited to see the finished product. I mean, we saw the trailer and, you know, we were dancing around like a couple of fangirls when Pete showed us. So, you know, when we see the finished product, I'm sure we're gonna watch it a few times and smoke a few cigars and we're big fans. So Trippy, maybe we should do a draw for some of the swag.
Yeah, so I've got a couple people in a spreadsheet here. All the people who ask questions.
Spreadsheet. Look at Mr. Organized over there.
A randomizer here.
Maybe you should be a production assistant on the on this film project. Jeez, spreadsheets. Jeez.
We're interviewing. So.
You know what? Let's add an extra thing to the giveaway. Let's add a women's tea also. So we'll do a men's and a women's tea.
Nice.
We didn't get any women's questions, but if any women are watching this,
hey, get one
the first person to email me at tripp@cigarfederation.com for a women's tea, you get it.
Perfect.
How about that?
I mean, as a Canadian, they constantly tell me I'm wearing a women's tee when I go to Nicaragua. Does that count?
All right. So the people I need to email me are Bob Dog and Harley Holmes. Email me. I'll get your address over to the hand-rolled guys, and they will get your prize shipped out. Send an email to Tripp, TRIPP, @cigarfederation.com.
Nice. So finishing final statements here, guys. I know we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but if there's any manufacturers tuned in or anybody really who wants to support this fantastic project, which really is supporting the entire industry, first of all, where can they do that, and where can they find you guys?
Yeah, handrolledmovie.com is going to be your best bet. It's got all of our information on there. It's got a contact page. You can get directly to us. I think it even has one of our phone numbers on there, or both of our numbers on there. So there's a donate tab if you want to donate.
Please donate.
Yeah, I mean, $5 is a huge help, seriously. And if anybody wants to do anything substantial, contact us first, and we want to get you guys part of the film and get you in the credits and stuff like that. So it's that's the best way to do it, man, through handrolledmovie.com.
Yeah, and keep following along too, like all of our social stuff, because we're figuring out as we go what we're going to do with that awesome humidor Daniel Marshall built for us. It's crazy because it's like a one of a kind piece, literally.
Yeah, that thing's legit.
I just want to keep it, and I don't want to give it to anybody. And it has 99 awesome cigars in it, currently, and maybe more. But yeah, we're figuring out what that process is going to look like. And we want to get into somebody's hands that's really passionate about cigars. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
the cool thing about like Instagram, for example, we update the Instagram stories constantly. So that's the best way to have like a live view into what's happening that day. I mean, we're going over to Connecticut next week from the 4th to the 9th, so people can watch live as we're hanging out or BSing or filming or whatever, And we try to put out update videos pretty regularly, at least once a month, sometimes more than that, with just random stuff that we're doing. So that's the kind of stuff we'd love to keep people up to date with.
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, guys. We really appreciate you coming on the show, and I'm really excited just to kind of get the word out to more people, because I know obviously you guys are passionate about the project. I'm really passionate about it too. It means a lot to me that you guys are going through all this effort and spending all this money to make something like this.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge.
Absolutely. We want everyone to have a great and safe Labor Day weekend, and all our Armed Forces Radio Network listeners, wherever you're stationed in the world. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Cigar Chat. We'll be back next week on a regular scheduled time of Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Have a great weekend. Stay safe.